So tonight we'll be speaking with Member of Knesset Simcha Rothman on the undue influence of Israel's Supreme Court. A little bit about the Member of Knesset. He is a Member of Knesset for the Religious Zionist Party, Chairman of the Knesset Constitutional Law and Justice Committee. Previously, he was the founder and legal advisor of the Movement for Governability and Democracy, Meshilut, and author of the best-selling Hebrew language book, Supreme Rulers, How Israel Became a Legocracy, in 2019. He was formerly Middle East Forum's Israel's legal advisor and a member of the Knesset Israel Victory Caucus. Member of Knesset Rothman earned his LLM in public law in a joint program between Northwestern University and Tel Aviv University, and his LLB from Bar Ilan University. And with that, Simcha, take it away.
Thank you very much. I won't waste time on apologies because it's unplanned and I have to be back and forth to the plenum. Not my time that I can decide on. So I will just try to introduce very shortly the issues. A lot of fake news goes around the reforms by Levin, by me, by my party, and by this government. So I will just I will talk about the four different aspects that Levin introduced that are the first part of the program. First, I have to say that before the elections, and that's very important to understanding of the democratic value of this reform, before the elections, the public in Israel was very well informed of what we're going to do. We as a party, the Religious Zionist Party, introduced a very thorough program called Law and Justice, talking exactly about the points that we're gonna touch with this reform, the changes we want to do. The public knew it, we voted on it. All the other parties in the camp that have the government now said that they agreed to the program. It was introduced in the coalition agreements. It had all the democratic votes behind it. So it's unlike we are trying to do a counter revolution to what happened 20 years ago or 30 years ago by the court, with zero public debate, with zero public discourse, without the public even knowing that suddenly the court took upon himself all these powers. So I will introduce it very briefly, and if I'll have to run, you have to forgive me. I'm sorry, and we might try to reschedule for another time. The four main aspects that are going to be dealt with during this sitting in the Knesset, Be'ezrat Hashem. One will be the reforms in the judicial selection process. The judicial selection process in Israel is unlike any other democratic country. In most democratic countries, the elected officials choose the judges. Of course, not per for 4 years or 2 years or 3 years, but longer periods of time, either until as long as they live, like in the US, or 12 years or other periods of time. But the elected officials choose either the government or the parliament, or a combination of the parliament and the government, the executive. But there is no other democratic country with the veto power to the judges to elect themselves, like there is the situation in the state of Israel. We need to change it. We need a system more like any democratic country, and specifically the American or the Canadian or the French or the German. Pick any democratic country that you want, and our system needs to be more like it. Another issue is the ability of the court to interfere with elected officials' decision regarding reasonability. It's another word for deciding, not because canceling a decision by the government or by a minister, not because it's unlawful, not because he thought about other issues or he was in a conflict of interest or any other problem, just because they don't like the outcome. Of course, we see it a lot with appointments. The minister appoints a person, someone appeals to the Supreme Court, no demand of legal standing, and the court cancels the appointment. I still don't understand based on what, but the court called it reasonableness. the decision the minister or the prime minister decided is unreasonable. Another thing needs to be changed is, of course, the method of canceling Knesset laws. In Israel, as you must know, we don't have a constitution. The court decided during the 90s that it can cancel laws based on basic laws. It has zero basis in the legislation. And just to understand the problem, the basic law in Israel was accepted with a 32 versus 21 majority. It wasn't a 61 majority. It definitely was not a super majority. A regular vote in the Knesset made this basic law, and the court said, because you accepted this basic law in 1992 with 32 Knesset members supporting it, I can cancel now a law that the same Knesset passes with 80 Knesset members because of the two judges versus one judge decided that it's contradicting. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense democratically, doesn't make any sense with the jurisprudence, doesn't make any sense. So we need to make sure that the court cannot cancel basic laws to start with. And of course, if the court decides that a law is contradicting to a basic law, the Knesset, it can't be a decision of a random or not random panel in the court. It has to be a decision accepted by a majority, a vast majority of the court, with all the judges in the court, 15 seats on the case and deciding it. And of course, they cannot have the final word to cancel a law based on basic law when the Knesset accepted the basic law with 31 votes to begin with. And the fourth part of the reform is to have, again, something that every democratic country around the world have and every government have, that they can choose their own litigator. If they are challenged in court, in Israel, there is a very weird situation when the lawyer working for the government can come to the court and say, I disagree with the government and I will present my view and not the prime minister's view, and the prime minister will not be able to present his view, his legal view, or any other view to the court. This situation, again, undemocratic, unheard of in any other democratic country, and needs to be changed. I must run, but I will take one question. I can say that I answered something to know that someone heard me, because I have to run back to the plenum, and I'm really deeply sorry.
So we have already a few questions coming in. I'm sure there'll be many more. But let me ask the first one from Jeff Dalby. How do you feel about implementing a supermajority of Supreme Court justices, perhaps 7 or of 9, to cancel a law?
So as I said, I don't think 7 or 9 is enough. I think that when you have 15 judges sitting on canceling a law, it should be the whole panel of the Supreme Court dealing with it, and it has to be a very vast majority. It has to be 13 or 12. It has to be super majority to cancel a law against. I'm reminding you, they're canceling a law based on the basic law that was passed with 32 Knesset members, and they can cancel a law that was passed by 60 or 70 or 80 Knesset members. It does not make any sense. Maybe they shouldn't have this power to begin with, but if they have it, it has to be a super majority in the court. And I'm sorry, I really have to run. I'm really sorry, because I need to vote in the plenum and to go and meet with the justice minister. We might reschedule for a different day. I'm sorry it happened like that. I thought the plenum will be over by now and we'll be in a different situation, but not everything is up to me. So I'm really and deeply sorry.
Of course. Thank you, Simcha, for your time. We'll maybe try and reschedule. Thank you very much for your patience. Anyone who knows the Knesset knows that Monday, it's very unpredictable. Sometimes everything is done by 6 or 7 or 8, and sometimes these things can go on until the very still to be voting at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, Israel time. So it's obvious that these things are completely out of his control, and he apologizes. And I think probably the best thing to do is reschedule at this point, because I think this is an important issue. This is an issue which people are talking about, that people want to know about. So it would be really good to really hear from the horse's mouth, as it were, because Simcha Rothman has been working on the issue of judicial reform probably longer than anyone else, and really created a lot of the headwind for what now will be picked up by the Minister of Justice, Yariv Levin. I will say that for those of you who are not my regular viewers, let's say, on Wednesday, every Wednesday, I give an insider's view on what's going on in Israeli politics behind the scenes, and I can talk and even answer some questions to the best of my ability about some of the issues that were raised. Obviously, I do not have Simcha's background, but every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock Israel time, is my weekly webinar, Israel Insider, as I said, where I will be talking about what's going on behind the scenes, an insider's look at Israeli politics and everything that's happening around Israel. So I hope to see you then, and please look out for the rescheduling of Simcha Rothman's talk, because I think it's a very important one. And again, my deepest apologies that we really couldn't get him on for the amount of time that we promised at the time we promised, but we will try and do better in the future. And with that, sorry again, and have a good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are.